two ordinance, sorry, are we ready?
You're ready.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Council President Suzanne Souter.
Here.
Councilperson Joseph Day.
Here.
Councilperson Nerman Zubaka.
Here.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt.
Here.
Councilperson Brian Mataway.
Here.
Also present, City Administrator Antonina Tantillo, City Treasurer James Wistman, Finance Clerk and Finance Coordinator and City Clerk Courtney Taylor, Michael Hoffman, City Solicitor, and Mayor Valerie Leary is attending via Zoom.
Thank you. All right, the public hearing tonight is on two ordinances. Ordinance 553 establishes a property tax rate upon total reassessment, 555, excuse me, should have got my glasses out. To temporarily reduce certain input tax payments and to adopt the fiscal 2026 budget. And ordinance 57 is to amend the code regarding the disability property tax exemption. So we will receive comments on either of these ordinances from anyone who wishes to speak. The usual rules, we have a new resident showing up today. Thank you for your interest, sir. If you choose to speak, go to the podium. There's a sheet to sign in, and then you say your piece. You have 3 minutes.
You have anything out there?
Yeah, we do.
Thanks. I packed my lunch for no reason. Wait, I've been out here. I thought this meeting starts. Sorry, guys, I apologize. Pick me up kids and all that, you know.
You bring any for us?
I can give you these, trail sticks without sauce. I'm willing to share.
Sorry.
You want some of this before I start? I'm serious.
I already ate.
No,
I won't be able to finish it.
I-
Do you-
Or 7 is still on,
Right.
you know, it's.
So we'll give them 10 minutes, and at
Yeah.
20 of, if no one else has come, we'll suspend. And then we'll reopen it at 5 of 7, and then at 7, we'll start the regular.
Perfect.
Okay.
How many years did it take you to get all this experience to know what to do when to do it?
A while, I mean, I watched.
Just sign in and
This is the.
Yes.
So, you know, when they sketch that,
You didn't get it? It's passed, it passed?
Yeah, well, I got it today from our people in the county. So, very. I think they said they're the final.
Mrs. Souter.
I'm checking online.
I'm looking right now. And if not, I'll send you what I got. I just, I didn't get a chance to look through it just because I was.
We're not gonna get
All right,
everything.
thank you.
That's what I'll tell you about last night.
Yeah.
Mrs. Souter, we do have a member of the public that wishes to speak.
Thank you. Okay, yes, sir.
Mostly just a question. My name is Tom Osborne. I'm a new resident of Newcastle. I live at 126 East Second Street and have been here since May 28th.
Oh, wow,
That's how new I am. But I was very active politically in Alexandria, Virginia, and before moving here. And I just have some general questions about
About the ordinances or about?
about the ordinances themselves. What is being, it doesn't tell me anything other than what it is about.
Okay.
It doesn't say what it does.
You're right. It is raising the income limits for senior tax exemption.
Disability taxes.
And, oh, that's right, we already raised the seniors.
Yeah.
So this is to provide the same thing for people who are permanently disabled but under 65. And in both cases, it raised the income levels from, let me make sure I get this right. From 15,000 for an individual and 30,000 for a couple to 25,000 for an individual and 50,000 for a couple. So people with incomes under that limit, potential, and are permanently disabled, and also applies to seniors, qualify for an exclusion of the first 173,000 of the assessed value of their property when we compute their property tax. And that 173 is an increase from 32 because this hadn't been changed in some time, as you can imagine.
My question was more related to the property tax rate.
Okay,
And
well,
setting that, is that,
the property, that's what we'll be doing later tonight, so you'll.
That's
hear
on
the-
the public hearing.
Right, it's all public.
It's on the public hearing. Our current tax rate is 1.2 per $100 of assessed value. However, we had a county or statewide
I
property
know
reassessment.
about the huge reassessment.
And it's the first reassessment in Newcastle County since 1983. So it's a significant increase for most people. So our tax rate is going down to 0.35.
So the first section of it in one of the last whereas says that it's reducing section 1, sorry, reducing that rate. Wait, sorry, help you guys out. So the first part is saying that we're rolling it back to 0.23779. But then we're adjusting it and setting it at we have to roll it back for first 2 weeks, 15 days. But then we're deciding to move it to 0.356 and some more decimals after
And
in section 2. And that's the new rate that would be
then
effective.
compared to 1.02,
1.2,
1.2 is 0.38.
right.
Oh, so it's
The
cut by
rate
about.
is going down dramatically, but people's
Yeah,
assessed
fine.
values went up dramatically.
And
So,
then my taxes would be considerably more than the previous owners.
right, right.
Yeah.
And
So the 1.2 old value, is the new 0.237 and change.
That's the equivalent of it once we account for the reassessed value, that the properties went up about 5 times.
the 0.24 is what they call the rollback rate, which would have produced the same total revenue for the city as the 1.2 on the old tax assessed
Right,
values
okay.
produced.
Okay.
And just one other point, this is our first tax increase in 16 years,
Right.
so it isn't like it
But
happens a
the
lot.
actual tax rate is a reduction.
Yes,
That's right,
So
because the assessments went up.
I don't know if
it's
it's
a
a
revenue
reduction.
increase, but not a tax increase.
I don't,
well, it
Not a
is.
reduction.
it's not a reduction.
Good way to look at it, I like
No,
that.
but just for transparency, it's not a reduction. The initial rate is just making it equal. So you're like that's what that does. But we are by tax rate by about 50%, 49.9%. That's the difference
The
between.
actual amount that people are going to pay, going to go up an average of about 50%.
My understanding and
Right,
reading things was that not only were tax assessments going to be the increased taxes, but the tax rate on those would be also increasing, and the tax rate is decreasing.
right.
No, it's not. Sorry.
Well,
No, it's not. So
Percentage
the both,
decrease.
but the both are increasing. Sorry, your appraised value is 5 times higher, and we're increasing fast by 50%. the numbers are different just because we have to lower them down, but.
Right.
The percent is lower, but the tax you
Yeah.
pay is still going to go up.
But
The confusion was that not only they're going to go up because of reassessment, but then the rate was also going to go up.
it is going up.
Can I take a stab at this? So the confusing part, the difficulty here is that per the reassessment, all the property values increased. So what state law requires is, as a first step, you actually have to back the taxes so that it's zero, so that it's it's neutral.
Yes.
And so even if the assessed value is going up, you're not paying any more taxes based on the assessed value. That has to be brought back. That's your rollback rate.
Yeah, and then,
Then step two is if you're gonna increase above, and that's what's before
Yeah,
council
okay.
tonight.
Thank you.
But the reason, sorry, just to finish, it is confusing. Thank you for chiming in. The reason why it is increased, sir, even though the rate is lower, is because your lower rate rollback rate is equal to 1.2, because 1.2 out of 49,000, which was average property value in 1983, is now 0.24 out of 280,000. So like it's the same, you get the same amount of property value on average. So I just want to make sure that you're not walking away here thinking we're reducing taxes, but instead we're increasing them. Just want to.
I see a difference between tax rate
And,
and the net taxes.
right,
Net
right,
taxes are going up, although the rate is going down.
That's
correct.
correct. That is
Yeah.
correct. But
Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for your interest, Mr. Osborne. We look forward to seeing you more.
Hey, hope to be around more.
And welcome.
one question about the percentage of restaurants. When we talk about rollback, it says 49.9, and when we talk about the new rate, it's also saying. Is that, am I reading that wrong? Was this regarding the increase that we're proposing?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure
Yeah, they're both.
we're not saying the same, two different rates.
Sale, you know.
I cannot.
Oh, property tax. It's per month,
Okay.
right? You'd be like, no, that's per year. Oh, yes. Okay, it's past 20 of, so we're going to suspend the public hearing. If anyone new comes in and wishes to speak, we will.
They're there till 8:30 tonight. We'll finish the details yet.
Yeah.
It's a senior center.
Yes.
This the last year of the Go Bond? Or is there one more?
Oh, you mean for the Delaware Street project?
Yeah.
I think there may be one more, because I think it was 5 years and I think it was done in that age. No, I think it was 20, because it was after I came on council in
Oh.
19. It may be not all. It may be partway through the year. And it's up.
Were you about to say anything? Something like that? Okay.
I don't think it's this year.
The kind of times.
They were finished. They've already done things like. No, I'm sure it's like sometime. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is adjourned. And now we will begin the special meeting budget workshop. Ms. Work, would you call the roll again, please, for the record?
Council President Suzanne Souter,
Here.
Councilperson Joseph Day,
Here.
Councilperson Nerman Zubaka,
Here.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt,
Here.
Councilperson Brian Mataway.
Here.
Also present, City Administrator Antonina Tantillo, City Treasurer James Wisman, City Clerk and Finance Coordinator Courtney Taylor, City Solicitor Michael Hoffman, and Mayor Valerie Leary is attending via Zoom.
It's been suggested that we do public comments first rather than after we vote on the budget. So if anyone here has comments on any of the items on the meeting agenda, we'll take them now with the same routine. You sign in and you have 3 minutes. So, no, oh, Mr. Stat.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to ask, at last night's budget hearing in the comments section, I suggested that council might want to consider a homestead exemption for residential properties. I'm curious to know whether council might be discussing that possibility or considering that possibility for FY 26.
We might, at this point, we're still trying to get, for 26, it's too late because in order to do it, we have to have a first reading of the ordinance, wait 7 days and have a second reading of the ordinance. And that gets us past June 30th. And we have to have a budget passed by June 30th. And if we were going to grant that exemption, it would have to be incorporated into the budget. Right?
Clock still going?
I turned it off, but go ahead.
I understanding all those deadlines. Perhaps there would be the possibility of adopting a budget within the June timeframe and amending it early in July. But that's all. It was just a suggestion.
But I do think we'll take that suggestion and some of the other things that we've discussed when we're not under such a time crunch to look at and evaluate.
Yeah, that's something that needs thoughtful consideration, not to be done in a rush.
On the back end, staff has to get out the bills too.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we want to get them out.
Say that again, Mr.
I said on the back end, the staff has to get the bills out too.
Right, that's the other
So-
issue, yeah. We did have one public comment that was sent in by email and asked to be read, which is our, something we customarily do. So I will read that one now, since I don't think there's anyone else who wishes to speak who's here. Okay.
Who's it from?
My name is Philip Gross, and I am a resident of the city of Newcastle, I have felt that by attending all of the budget workshops has brought about zero change in what our city council has decided to do in regards to the spending of our tax dollars. I have felt that with the city in the budget crisis, that the city council, when putting together a final draft to vote on, wait a minute, let me get these, I think will help. The city council has, when putting together a final draft to vote on, has taken into consideration removing excess spending that did not need to be put into this current year's budget. It's been a bait and switch, mainly regarding the dog park. Maybe 2% of the tax-paying public are in favor of a dog park, especially where it is to be placed. Andrew Zelt has been secretly putting together a committee to go forward with it, regardless of what the community wants. Thanks, or whether our city is in a financial position to spend the money on it. The dog park has the blessing of our city administrator, who basically said it will be built, and the rest of council, being lame ducks, are going along with it. It's inappropriate and most certainly unnecessary at this point of the city's financial situation. Our budget should be lean, but every time something is taken off the budget, other items are added, which not only equal but exceed the amount that was taken off. We don't need a balanced budget now. We need a budget that has less expenditures and more revenues so that we can build up a fund that Councilman Madaway and Zubaka have been trying to do. Also, over the last month and a half, I have submitted various FOIA requests that have gone unanswered concerning our budget items and issues that I have with earmarked expenditures. This is illegal, as all FOIA requests are supposed to be answered within 15 days. This disregard for the law will result in legal action and bringing in the Department of Justice. God knows I have tried to come up with an amicable resolution, but it seems like just with what has been going on over the last 16 years, since there has been no attention given to our city's financial stability by Suzanne Saller and some of the other longstanding council people, including our mayor. I see no resolution other than legal. I hope that this council does not vote to approve the budget, and we extend the time which is within legal bounds to continue working on it with the tax-paying resident help. Thank you, Phil Brooks. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is a general discussion of the budget. I don't know if there's any change from last night's discussion. Is there any questions or comments that have occurred to anyone since last night, any of the council?
I think just in line with what was just responded to Mr. Staff was that, last night after the meeting, I kind of thought about my vote today and figured that, during the next fiscal year, I would work with council if we see once the bills go out, if there's a need for ordinance that would either, be needs-based, credit program for similar thing that Mr. Staff proposed or for everybody, but it was one of those things that I liked the idea, but I felt that, we could address that mid-year if there's a need that we see that we miss something that, people are unable to somehow meet ends with the new budget. It was just something that occurred between the last meeting. That's
Any other comments?
I knew Norm said it last night, but again, I'd like to thank the city administrator and staff for all their patience with us
Yes.
and making this easy for us to understand what was being changed and proposed. So thank you.
Right, yes, the
Nice.
presentations you prepared have been very helpful in going beyond just columns of numbers.
Yeah, thank you for providing a lot of different versions because, and keeping them in there because while it can be confusing, it is great to see the difference between kind of a lot of discussion that we had in the council moving, cutting, adding, so kind of showcase that effort on your side as well as the council side on, to try to figure out the best budget going forward. So
Yeah, we're on our 5th version of the budget.
official, but I'm sure there's a lot more that happened in everybody's head and, and so like, absolutely. Thank you guys for all the effort you guys
Yes.
put and, to get us here, it's always tricky with, all the outstanding things, so.
The only other additional comment that I would make, I would first like to echo the comments made by Councilman Day and Zubaka and everyone here at the table. Again, I want to thank everyone for their efforts to get us to this point, especially Ms. Timotillo, Ms. Taylor, and my fellow colleagues. But I would like to see us now move to pivot to looking to safely and prudently assess the interest that we're getting in these savings accounts. Over the last year or so, Ms. Taylor has mentioned that the rates have declined due to the market. So I would like for us to see about going to a high yield savings account or something that can, there are products out there that are safe and FDIC insured that could help us double, for example, what we're currently getting. So as a body, to think about it and to make a prudent decision, and hopefully it doesn't take us 6 months, to pull the trigger on something like that.
Well,
Because
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's one of the reasons we are proposing to establish a finance committee, which we had the first reading last month at the regular meeting. And we will potentially,
It was a resolution.
it
so
was,
approved.
it was approved by resolution, that's right. So in July, we have lined up the three residents and another member of council, so they will be formally appointed. And then I'm hoping that that committee can advise us on exactly what you're talking about. That was the purpose of having the committee, or one of the purposes.
Okay.
And I
So,
also have two different entities who I've been working with to get proposals for better savings accounts and money management. So I'll present those to the committee and to council when we're ready.
thank you.
okay, are we ready to move on? Item 2 on the agenda was the establishment of the Budget Stabilization Fund and the Capital Infrastructure Fund. I think we agreed a couple of meetings ago to postpone this one and to table it until after the budget was settled and work it out at that point. So we're going to pass on that one for tonight. The next item is a discussion and possible vote of ordinance 554, which was the ordinance to amend the City of Newcastle Municipal Code regarding senior citizens' property tax exemption. You have a copy of that in your packet. We made,
We've already approved that.
so that one's done. All right, and then the next item, then, actually, I think I'm gonna bring item 5 up next because it's related, is to item ordinance 557, which we had the hearing on tonight, to basically extend the same exemptions to the permanently disabled. We had the public hearing, would you need to make the amendment?
So I have, since it was introduced a couple of meetings ago, we've noticed it properly and just had a public hearing for it. And because we made changes when approving the senior citizen tax exemption to raise the thresholds for the property value and the income values, I made the same changes for this disability tax exemption to reflect those same numbers. So they're already incorporated in your document. And I should read it, or
No, I'll just read the highlight, I'll just cover the highlighted part. So we're changing the income limits from 15,000 for an individual and 30,000 for a couple to 25 for an individual and 50,000. And we're changing the amount of the assessed value to be excluded from taxation from 32,000 to 173,000. And we arrived at that amount because that's the same amount the county exempts. So does anyone have any further comments or questions on this, or are we ready to vote on it?
My main question is the disability exemption for county. Can you guys confirm that it's 173?
I did to match the senior exemption that you talked about last time. I don't know what the county disability exemption is.
You just don't mind checking it. I'm obviously fine with it, but just want to make, since we're making a line because of the county's number. I don't want to make our exemption to be higher than the county's, I guess.
Yeah, it's 173.
Thank you.
So
I'm sub 65 for disability as well.
So basically, we're giving the identical exemption to the permanently disabled as we give to the seniors. So are we ready to vote on this ordinance? All right, Ms. Weirich, would you call the roll for the vote, please?
Can you state the motion, please?
Okay, we have a motion to approve ordinance 557, an ordinance to amend the City of Newcastle's municipal code regarding the disability property tax exemption.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Council President Souter,
yes,
Councilperson Joseph Day,
Yes.
Councilperson Nerman Zubaka,
Yes.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt,
Yes.
Councilperson Brian Mataway.
Yes.
okay, the ordinance is adopted unanimously. Sorry to be skipping around, but then the next item is ordinance 555, which was also part of the public hearing. This is an ordinance to establish a property tax rate upon the total reassessment to temporarily reduce certain penalties for delinquent tax payments and to adopt the fiscal 2026 budget. So this ordinance, which is also in your packet, it was originally, the first reading had the up to tax increase limit, and because we didn't know how the numbers were going to come out.
This has been reflective of the final numbers that we discussed last night, and it's been posted as well. So the rollback rate will be 0.23779. A need for a property tax increase of 49.9% is necessary. Bear with me, all these people are up slow.
So that's a tax rate close. That's in here, that's in the last section.
And then we're lowering the penalty for the 2 months, right?
Right. We're extending the deadline for 2 months, yes.
Well, there's still a penalty.
But there's
there,
still
right?
1.5 lower
1.5.
penalty.
It's not the 6% penalty.
Oh,
it's
okay.
1.5. For, October, November 16 years.
And the new tax rate.
Well, maybe because there've been so many changes, I should just read it again.
Yeah.
I know we normally don't, but we've made a number of changes, I think, for clarity, and it's not that long.
Yep.
Okay, ordinance 555. Whereas the Council of the City of Newcastle, City Council, possesses the authority to adopt, amend, modify, or repeal the City of Newcastle Municipal Code, City Code. And whereas Title 22, Section 1105 of the Delaware Code obligates the City Council to adopt an ordinance establishing a new property tax rate upon completion of a total property reassessment. And whereas a total property reassessment will be completed by Newcastle County in July 2025. And whereas Title 22, Section 1106 of Delaware Code obligates the city to compute a rollback rate based upon the new total property reassessment, which is that rate which results in the same property tax revenue as was generated during the prior fiscal year. And whereas this rollback rate has been calculated to be 0.23779. And whereas Delaware law allows the city to increase its property tax rate upon total reassessment by ordinance, but requires the city to identify the percent by which the tax rate to be levied exceeds the rollback rate. And whereas the City Council finds that 49.9% increase to the property tax rate is prudent and appropriate and in the best interest of the city and its residents. And whereas the City Council recognizes that a total reassessment has not been completed in Newcastle County since 1983, and that the reassessment process has led to some confusion among the public. And whereas the City Council further finds that a temporary reduction in the standard interest charges applied to delinquent tax payments is reasonable and appropriate and in the best interest of the city and its residents. Whereas the city administrator has presented the proposed fiscal year 2026 general fund and grant budget to the city council members, the mayor, and the city treasurer. And whereas the mayor and city council members have advertised and held public meetings to discuss and make appropriate changes to the proposed budgets. Whereas the fiscal year 2026 general fund budget is balanced at $7,598,646 and contains proposed wage adjustments for city employees. Whereas the fiscal year 2026 grant budget is balanced at $3,183,225.51. And whereas the general and grant budgets are to be managed by the city administrator. Now therefore making the express finding that the provisions of this ordinance enhance and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the city of Newcastle, be it ordained by the council of the city of Newcastle as follows. Section 1. Effective July 1st, 2025, the property tax rate shall be 0.35635499 per $100, which represents 49.9% increase in the tax rate over the rollback rate. Section 2, for only those real estate taxes levied in 2025, City Code Chapter 2021 Taxation, Article 4 Abatement, Section 221-15 notice is hereby amended as follows. Notice. A notice stating that a discount or abatement of 2% shall be allowed on all taxes paid prior to September 1st, 2025. And the taxes paid between September 1st, 2025 and September 30th, 2025 shall not be entitled to a discount or abatement, and that taxes paid on or after October 1st of each year are subject to an interest charge of 1.5 for the months of October and November, 6% for the month of December, and for each consecutive month after December. An additional interest charge of 1% until the total amount of taxes due has been paid shall be attached to or incorporated in every tax bill sent to a taxpayer. Section 3, that the fiscal year 2026 total city budget is adopted at $10,781,871.51, and the resulting tax rate shall be set at 0.35635499 per $100 of assessed value, reflecting a 49.9% tax rate increase from the rollback rate to the new fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2025. Section 4, if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 5, in the event any existing ordinances or parts of ordinances are in conflict herewith, the provisions of this ordinance shall control. This ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption and approval. So, are there any further comments or discussions on this ordinance? Is there a motion to approve ordinance 557? 555.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Wright, would you call the roll for a vote on ordinance 555?
Council President Suzanne Souter,
Yes.
Councilperson Joseph Day,
Yes.
Councilperson Nerman Zubaka,
Yes.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt,
Yes.
Councilperson Brian Mataway.
Yes.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Everybody.
We have a budget, yes.
Andrew, you're okay.
This is the 8th budget meeting, I believe. This year's been a struggle because of the confusion surrounding the reassessments. Okay, so did that one. Yeah, now we're ready. No, we did 557. Yes. Okay, and finally, a discussion motion and possible vote of resolution 2025-31. That's not. Okay. So I will read the resolution. A resolution to establish a comprehensive plan fund and a special projects and grants fund. Whereas city council members have reviewed the current state of the city finances and recognize there is a need to plan for future expenses. And whereas during the fiscal year 2026 city council special meetings to address the budget, council discussed the need to plan for special projects and grants that may be available to the city throughout the year, which may require a match. And whereas in order to plan for future projects and grant opportunities, City Council has determined the need to establish a special projects and grants fund to initially be funded by a special projects and grants budget line in the fiscal year 2026 budget and by future funding of that budget line. And whereas funds to be used from the special projects and grants fund include those for special projects that occur throughout the year and grants requiring a match. And whereas the City Council also discussed the responsibility of the Planning Commission to revise the comprehensive plan every 10 years, and review the comprehensive plan every 5 years, which may necessitate the need for funds to be budgeted to complete these tasks. And whereas in order to plan for future comprehensive plan revisions and reviews, City Council has determined the need to establish a comprehensive plan fund to initially be funded by a portion of the comprehensive plan budget line in the fiscal year 2026 budget and by a future funding of that budget line. Whereas the City Council may also authorize the aforementioned reserve fund accounts to include that money may be set aside and expended in the future on items related to emergency goods and services. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby authorizes and directs the finance coordinator to make the appropriate accounting entries to occur so that $35,000 in the general fund special projects and grants expense line shall be transferred and held in account and accounted for in a reserve fund dedicated to projects and grants. And be it further resolved that the City Council hereby authorizes and directs the finance coordinator to make the appropriate accounting entries in the fiscal year 2026 budget so that $10,000 of money in the general fund comprehensive plan update expense line shall be transferred and held and accounted for in a reserve fund dedicated to the comprehensive plan. And be it further resolved that with the establishment of the special projects and grants reserve fund and the comprehensive plan reserve fund, it is hereby acknowledged that monies expended from said fund shall be exclusively for the purposes set forth, and that such proper expenditures may not require further review of the full City Council. However, that the finance coordinator shall review and approve said expenditures and ensure that other applicable proper finance processes and procedures in place are adhered to upon expenditure of such funds. And be it further resolved that in the event it is proposed to expend monies from the aforementioned reserve fund for purposes outside the parameters set forth above, that such expenditures from said reserve funds may only occur after discussion by the City Council at a public meeting and adoption of a proper City Council resolution authorizing such expenditures. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect July 1st, 2025. So is there discussion on this resolution?
Mr. President, I could add a couple of items just for the public domain. So in January the 20th, I reached out to a city planner through email with copy to Mr. Tintillo, where I was asking him about the comprehensive plan, recognizing that we were in the mid-cycle. And one of the questions that I asked him was, how much money does it cost for a city of our size to do a comprehensive plan? And his response on Monday, January 20th, 2025 was essentially is a rough estimate, but between $50,000 and $100,000. And as he says, depending on the level of effort. So that was the impetus in regards to the thought of needing to try to squirrel away some monies for this expense that we would constantly have. Then we know, I think a couple months ago, Ms. Rain presented her annual report to council and to the residents. And she highlighted and or recommended a concept of this same liking. And then in previous budgetary meetings that we've had for this upcoming fiscal year, it was referenced as an idea to add to the budget, which I know that Ms. Taylor and Ms. Tintillo have done. Then in regards to the special projects and grants, just recognizing the great work that city staff and people in council and quite frankly, the playground committee, if you will, and the flood resiliency committee have done to seek out grants, and many of these grants have a matching need. So recognizing that those things are out there, the desire was to earmark some monies for some of these things that have been done, but we also know are also in the works. For example, there's been ongoing talks about doing some enhancements to satellite parks throughout the city. There's already been some grant funding efforts and visioning work in regards to the bike trail along Delaware River. Cantillo and her staff and city engineer, et cetera, have done some grants for dike management, which we know were initially unsuccessful, but we know they will continue in those efforts. We also know that there are going to be some efforts in regards to the walkable community study that we have coming up with MAPCO, and some effort to do traffic calming safety measures, knowing that there might be some fruitful opportunities that come out of that. So I'll pause there, but that's some of the context.
Okay, I do have one question. I recall that the Historic Area Commission has applied for grants in the past from, I believe it's through the state historical and cultural affairs, for grants that they use them for educational or organizational purposes, for example, to help prepare the guideline that's currently on the city website. And it isn't a large amount. I seem to remember $5,000 or $6,000. Did we include that in the historic area budget line this month, this time?
Yes.
So in future, perhaps that line should also be part of this special grant matching fund as opposed to part of the Historic Area Commission, just as the funds set aside for the comprehensive plan will be moved from the planning commission budget to this special fund, right? In the future. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that we weren't like forgetting that one, even though it's a smallish item, the Historic Area Commission.
Oh, yeah, I think, yeah, I really like these two funds, just the idea behind them. As you know, we're having these expenses for comprehensive plan, whether we want to do it or not, we have to do it every 10 years. If we do it every 5, then it sets us up for more, eases us into for those expenses. So we're not just doing stuff that we can't plan for. So I think that's just a proactive way for us to address that. And I like the grant matching and special projects because we had done that as a city through various things and, encouraged a lot of different bodies to fundraise. I just want to give an example. I just read in the bond bill that Encore, as a nonprofit, had gotten grant and aid funding, and 60,000 got approved from the community transportation funds that gets them to the shovel-ready stage. But I think we have last year put aside matching funds for 75,000 for that to over $1 million of fundraise money. So I want to applaud the council for doing that. That was I think that's a great example of a successful project that we believed in our residents who delivered more than what we have, as a city put aside. And I think this is, a great place to start and build upon these funds to, encourage other places to, bring this money. This is 60,000, for example, that is coming to a nonprofit that's pretty much going to go into a public goods and services in our city. So that's just amazing news for me. So thank you guys all for supporting these projects and hopefully these funds do this.
I just have one question and looking for some clarification. So, and I agree with both of the funds, but in the fourth whereas clause, it says funds to be used from the special projects and grants fund include those for special projects that occur throughout the year and grants requiring a match. Is that only for projects requiring a match? Because the wording doesn't seem like it's only projects, and to go further, obviously, if there's a discussion on council, I think it's always warranted that we use the funds. But down further, we talk about, you know, what I mean, the coordinator approving, you know what I mean? And I'm just wondering, so if I came to the, you know, the administrator and said, hey, I want to put a new basketball court up somewhere, it's my special project. I would expect something like that to come back towards council. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear on it. I understand if it's a match for a grant, then it should be approved. You know what I mean? I would assume at that point we've discussed it. But if I or another council person comes forward with their own special project, I think it has to be a discussion on council. I would hope that it is.
These are more of the council special projects, like we talked about, doing like the case study and things like that.
But
But if you want to
can
special,
I ask an example for myself? I don't know if that's what you're getting at, but let's say that a nonprofit is looking for a grant. That they want to apply for from the grants fund, and they say, hey, we have a matching requirement for 10,000. Would this be the?
No.
Okay, so this is just
this
for
is for
council.
city
Okay,
grants that we need to match funds for.
okay.
Mm.
So if NCCP or Encore came and said, okay,
No.
Alright.
They're already getting contributions in the budget.
Right. This is just for grants to the city
Right.
that require matching.
So it would be nice if it was clarified that it was just for matching, because later it says, if we're using it outside of them parameters, it just has to be a resolution for council, which I agree with.
Mhm.
But, you know, I just think we ought to be clear and, you know what I mean? So we all.
You
know
wanna
that.
strike, you wanna strike the special projects?
The
In
money's
that
expended.
portion of that clause?
Well, I was thinking maybe that it says, and correct me if I'm wrong, funds to be used from the special projects and grants fund include maybe the word only those for special projects that occur throughout the year and grants requiring it, well. Yeah, maybe it's only,
Only special projects previously approved by council.
Or do we need to change it in the, be it further resolved at the bottom of the page where it says it's acknowledged that monies expended from such fund shall be exclusively for the purposes set forth, and that such proper expenditures may not require the review of the full council? Do we just want to add something in there that says monies expended for grant matches can just be handled through the administrative, through the financial coordinator, but, and that would, and anything for a special project would have to come to council. I didn't phrase that very well, but I don't know, Mr. Hopton, which is the best way to handle this? Because I agree with Mr. Day that, yes, if we get a grant, there shouldn't be a lot of bureaucracy around taking money out of this fund to pay our matching share. But for special projects, I think they should go through council.
So I think that the place to do it is in the whereas clause, which sets the parameters. I think when it is the special projects and grants, my recommendation would be that it's just the fourth whereas. It would say funds to be used from the special projects and grants fund are those for special projects previously approved by city council that occur throughout the year and grants requiring a match.
Okay. So we need a motion.
do we need that occur throughout the year, or can we just say person projects that were previously, because, you know, it can, I mean.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good
So
point.
we can delete
Well,
that.
don't you need that for the grant year, for the fiscal year?
Well, no, it says and grants requiring a match. So if it just
Yeah, we do
read,
special projects previously approved by city council and grants requiring a match.
if it read, whereas funds to be used from the special projects and grants funds include those for special projects previously approved by city council and grants requiring a match. And
I'm
then,
just not crazy about the include.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, include that might just be part of it. That's how I read it. Like the word are
which is what I thought.
specifically says,
That's right.
this is what we use it for.
Right, so it's funds to be used from the special projects and grants fund or those for special projects previously approved by city council and grants requiring a match.
So my question about removing the throughout the year is for Antonina and Courtney. Only reason I said that is, let's say we approve something, I don't know, in September. And then, but for some reason doesn't happen until next fiscal year, we still would, roll that and increase it potentially to whatever other projects are there. So that's the only reason I'm thinking that, but if we still want it to be there, I don't see it as a problem. I just thought it might give you flexibility. If something carries over, it's still the same.
Okay.
It's happening. It's just.
But this doesn't, what?
Mhm.
The
No, I
the wording
understand,
we
yeah.
have doesn't time limit it, it just says if it's been, a special project has been approved by city council, it doesn't say that the money has to be expended in the same fiscal year as the approval.
But if they occur through that year, I
Yeah.
would assume that's.
But
what
if we
reason why-
strike that.
Yeah, I was just asking them, like, is that
Yeah, we can.
If-
sure.
if
we-
that's
If we,
a
so the,
problem for them?
so the fourth whereas would then read, whereas funds to be used from the special projects and grants fund are those for special projects previously approved by city council and grants requiring a match.
Mhm.
Okay,
I'll make
so,
a motion that be amended, the fourth whereas clause be amended to read that.
Second,
okay, all in favor of this amendment?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to make an amendment to the third to last paragraph where it says now therefore be resolved. It's just a typo that would make it consistent with the next paragraph where it says 35,000 of in to replace, just add of money in the general fund.
Or just 35?
And just because it's the same language of money in the general fund in the next paragraph, that's the only, it's typo.
So does that even have to be an amendment or that just a correction?
Yeah, that's just
So,
money.
so it becomes $35,000 of money in the general fund. Okay. All right,
But then the last part, sorry, Council President, does the last paragraph then need alterations now that we fixed the fourth?
well,
Um,
it says that this authorizes the finance coordinator to approve such expenditures as,
The short answer is no, because the structure of the recitals sets your parameter.
It was self-improvement, then financial coordinator just is executing on that.
Correct, and so that's right, so what the further resolved portion says is that the expenditures are approved. So it says it's hereby acknowledged that this is the last paragraph, monies expended from said fund shall be exclusively for the purposes set forth.
and we set the.
Okay, you set the.
So if we approve a study for $30,000, but the quote is at 45, it would come back to council according to this? Is that how I read it, or would it still be within
That's
the
a different
parameters?
question, right?
Say that again?
So if we said $30,000 for a study,
Mhm.
that we came in September, once again, let's go back to the example, we approved that expenditure, we see that a priority, and now your team is trying to do it, but then like if something happened, quote, got increased to 35, 40, 45, are we putting threshold there of what can be expended in addition to that, or would
No.
you come back?
I think we
Say
have to come
that
back
both
and talk
have
about
to
that,
come
because
back.
that's not. what
Just
we want
making
set
sure,
aside.
yeah, so it would be up to that point that we authorize, okay.
So we don't need any change to deal
Yeah,
with
that's-
that.
that's
You
just
would
what I
have
wanna
to
make
come
sure.
back. They would have to come back and say, well, it's gonna cost $15,000 more. Do you still want to approve it? Basically.
Well, and I mean, the fund is the fund, so the money is only what's in there,
Right.
you can't spend from the fund more than is there.
Right, well, that's the other thing.
Yeah, to find something else in the general first.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
Motion
other,
to approve resolution 2025-31
With
as
amendments,
amendment,
as amended.
Second.
Thank you.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Ms. Tinto, if I could, just ask for one, takeaway with this, if you and your staff could do. And that is, when we get time, at the end of the budget season, if you could correspond with all the, chairs of the subcommittees
Mhm.
to make them aware that this is out there. Obviously, they would have to potentially coordinate with you, but for example, there could be some, free grants or something out there. That might be beneficial, similar to the historical, act.
right,
They or we as a city might find behooving, and again, at your discretion, if it goes forward, but if we could just make them aware that this potential money is out there that could be compounding in a good way.
if they find grants that they want to apply for,
Right.
yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
And thank you for being supportive of all the grants that I've been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mary is on the line and she would like to see it.
Okay,
Are you able to tell me? Please.
Hello, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hi, so greetings from the very steamy city of Washington DC, which I'm sure is equally as steamy as there in Newcastle. I just want to commend all of you and the city administrator and Ms. Taylor for the long days, longer evenings, and multiple meetings that you guys have all committed yourselves to come to the conclusion that you had to come to tonight. Raising the taxes doesn't put money in our personal pockets. In fact, it takes from them because everyone on council also lives in the city and will be affected by it. And it's a difficult decision and one that was delayed by many years. So congratulations to you all to getting to this point. And I hope that folks will refer to the numbers that are that are available online on the city website, where you can see the line items and what was voted for and I don't think anyone will ever know how much was taken out of the budget and what sacrifices were made to get to this point. So thanks again. I appreciate it all.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks.
All right, any other business tonight? Is there a motion to adjourn? Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.
Thank you all. This is very good.
We're gonna share space with you.
Well, I was gonna say, the light on.
Oh, yeah.